Happy Devils Wednesday. This is the State of the Fan Address presented by pucksandpitchforks.com. I'm your host, Sam Wu, here with Nick Villano, the editor-in-chief, as we're streaming live on Facebook Live, YouTube Live, X Live, Twitch, and now on Instagram Live on the Let's Go Devils Network. As the season continues, or should I say the off season, yeah, there's lots to talk about. Nick, I feel like I'm in off season mode right now. I just totally screwed up the opening.
What do you mean?
Oh, I don't know. I'm just not in that groove. I've been on my X account in the past 3 hours, spurring up conversations with the rest of the fans. You know, they take everything literally, all the rumors and all that kind of stuff. But journalism is dead. That's the title of today's podcast.
Yeah, here's the deal. There's a lot of reports going on out there. There's a lot of talk. And, you know, Pierre LeBrun made the report this week, that Nico Hischier's most likely outcome is an extension, but teams are paying attention. I think that that's fair. And here's why. Do you know who the number one center in free agency is this year? I'll give you the number one and the number two because I think that one could argue there's one better than what I'm thinking of, but I wrote about this earlier just because I think it's crazy. Do you know who the number one and number two centers in free agency are this year?
I have no idea.
In some order, it's Boone Jenner of the Columbus Blue Jackets and Eric Haula.
That's
35-year-old Eric Haula is the second best center on the free agent market. There were people talking themselves into Eric Haula. And that's because there's no one else to go after. If we hadn't done the Eric Haula trend, I think I would have talked myself into it. Like, not a terrible option to switch with Cody Glass. Honestly, Sam, I think I'd rather have Bustad. I think I'd rather be. It just depends on the price. You know, if you told me that he'd come to the Devils for the same price as Bustad, I think I'd be on the fence. But I think he's going to make like $5 million. So when you know that, people will be like, okay, well, I could pay $5 million for Haula, or I could send a Haula to the Devils and get Nico Hischier. And, you know, I think that insiders are more and more being told to, like, you need to put it out there. right? Like that's what gets the clicks is the rumors and that's what we talk about too, and that's what I talk about at Pucks and Pitchforks. I can't rag on them, but that's what journalism is now. It's just saying stuff. That's all it is. It's just saying stuff.
Well, just like Elliot Friedman putting out that 3-year contract idea.
Yeah.
These are ideas, folks. And now it seems like, it's that saying, if you say it to yourself so many times, I guess it's a fact. It's not a fact. Yeah. That was just an idea that Elliot Friedman put out there. It was a very well thought out idea. I don't agree with it, because why would Quinn Hughes risk 3 years of potential injury and then play with his brothers for the Minnesota Wild? It only benefits the Minnesota Wild. And you take that risk of guaranteed money that you could have made if you just signed.
This is also last year you get 8 years.
Yeah.
This is the last year you get 8 years.
Yeah.
But to be fair, that is a trend. Star players have been signing for shorter and shorter contracts. Austin Matthews started this. And we just saw Connor McDavid sign.
Actually, Trevor Bauer, actually, I know it's baseball. His agent said that they started that whole sports trend, apparently.
His agent's an idiot. I'm sorry, but is it still the lady with the red hair?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, they're an idiot. I hate to be that way, but every time I hear her talk, I'm like, I don't know. I've spoken to a lot of agents, and that didn't work out for him because now he's in some Long Island league,
Long Island Ducks or something like that. But anyway, didn't mean to interrupt you. But
sorry, and I'm on one today, so I apologize for that. But if you wanted to get her on the podcast, I think that's out the door now.
Well, but the point I was trying to make is, wait 3 years to play with his brother when he could just wait 1 and then get guaranteed money? It's just loose. You have 3 years. Anything could happen. The Hughes brothers all playing on the same team, if that's the family goal, may not happen. I mean, all it takes is one bad injury and your career is done. You want to do it now. That's my opinion. And guaranteed money.
Can I tell you my theory?
Go ahead.
I think Bill Guerin was going to bring Luke Hughes to the Olympics and just be like, see, you're playing with your brothers. This could still happen for you. There will be the World Cup. There will be the All-Star Games. You'll have these options, and I'll make sure they happen because I'm Team USA's general manager. Because Luke Hughes got hurt, he didn't go to the Olympics. Instead of Jackson Lacombe, I think, went instead of him. And I think that experience was lost. And you got to remember the timing of that 3-year deal conversation, because that happened right after they beat Dallas. And people say stuff when they're in that emotion, right? You might have asked Zach Parise after Henrique scored to beat the Rangers. If you asked him right then and there, you coming back? Lou should have just put a contract in front of him that day. And you might have had a different situation because the emotions are running high. And listen, that's bad business. It's not, what was Chris Pronger said that the Oilers had him sign a long-term deal when they first traded him, and he got a little extravagant. That's what he said in his book, and that's how he got out of the contract, because he felt that he got bamboozled. But anyway, that report came right after they beat the Stars, and they got just throttled by the Avalanche. And the Avalanche had basically no chance against the Vegas Golden Knights. And, I'm looking at this, and Sam, I'm rooting for nobody in the final. Between a Hurricanes and Golden Knights series, I want everybody to lose somehow. I want them to go to 30 overtimes and then just forfeit. That's what I want. That is what I'm rooting for. So and I'm going to write about this probably tonight, about how this is just setting up to be a very, very unlikable final for Devils fans. Honestly, we're going to be rooting for I know some people are probably rooting for the Golden Knights, but some of us are going to be rooting for the Canadians. Oof. And I like the Canadians as a team. Their fans are annoying, but Suzuki's a likable player. I love Caulfield. He's a guy I really wanted in the draft. I wanted the Devils to find a way to get back into that first round to draft Caulfield. So they have some likable play. I don't hate Slavkovsky. Slavkovsky's a guy a lot of us did a lot of research on because we thought the Canadians were taking right. So a lot going on there. But kind of circling back to the Nico Hischier conversation, because I just kind of went on a tangent. I apologize. But the center market is devastating. And we've had a lot of conversations. And just Twitter's an interesting place. I wrote about Dawson Mercer today. And I didn't get into this in the article, but I kind of want to talk about, like, why did he fail as a center? And I think he tried to play like a winger as a center. Even though he was naturally a center when he was drafted. I just think he'd been playing as a winger for so long that I don't think Sheldon Keefe gave him enough time to kind of transition to that. It was terrible. It was terrible as a center. But a lot of conversations like, why would you trade a perennial 20-goal scorer who's 24 years old? And it's the same conversation as Nico Hischier. The reason why these conversations are happening is because of value. Anyone who can play center is going to have increasingly inflated value. And if Sonny Maeda looks at the situation and says, your value to me in a trade is more than your value to me on this team, then you're going to get traded. Especially this offseason where these aren't his guys. He's come in with a fresh look. Now, I think Hischier's a different story because I think Hischier, I'm like 99% sure, Maeda was on the scouting staff or whatever staff he was. He was on the analytics staff when they drafted Nico Hischier. So I assume he was part of those conversations of like Hischier over Patrick, Makar, and Heiskanen and Pettersson. I assume those conversations were happening. And Hischier's a superstar center. He's a top 20 center. He'd be a number one on half the teams in this league. So when I look at the Devils, your advantage here is that you have Hughes and Hischier. That's the reason why you can be a contender year in and year out, right? That is the reason why we're having conversations every year about how you're disappointing is because you have these two superstar centers who are young. Now they're both in their prime. If you trade one, that advantage is gone. Now, your advantage is Jack Hughes. That's it. All teams have guys like Jesper Bratt and Timo Meier and Dougie Hamilton. Like, everybody has those types of guys. Very few have two superstar centers. There's Edmonton. You could probably say Vegas. Colorado. Who's their second line center? Why is it escaping me? Is it Nelson? Is he a center or is he a winger? Is it Landeskog? I think he plays wing now, right?
I think he's a wing now.
Anyway, it's hard to find, right? You have guys like Carolina. Carolina has some good centers, but I would say Aho is behind both Hughes and Hischier. I'm trying to think. Like, look at Minnesota. Minnesota's desperate for a good second line center, or first line center, and moving Joel Eriksson to the second line. I'm just looking real quick through. Like Florida has two really good centers, and Bennett and Barkov, but Barkov was hurt. The Penguins re-signed Malkin, so they have Crosby and Malkin coming back, but they're not. Malkin's not the same guy.
Well, I think you make a great point, Nick. Metalander's saying that Nico Hischier is not a superstar center, a pretty good two-way player, but as what you alluded to, the free agency market of centermen is really like nothing to write home about. And it begs the question about Tom Fitzgerald, because he was always drafting mobile, right-handed D guys, saying that their trade values were superior. And that's what he did in 2022 with Shimon Nemitz.
Mm-hmm.
But would you say in today's market, let's just make a fictitious scenario, they had drafted Logan Cooley? Would they use him is he more valuable than Shimon Nemitz in a trade to Minnesota? Probably.
Oh, 100%.
Probably.
Immensely.
Yeah.
Immensely. People are saying that Shimon Nemitz has the value of a late first-round pick. That's not true, but I think it's the value of a mid-first-round pick. Like a 10 to 20. He's somewhere in that range, and that's not good.
And that's
Logan
where
Cooley is a multiple first-round pick kind of guy. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's where Tom Fitzgerald really screwed up, and I would love to know the backstory why they picked Shimon Nemitz over Logan Cooley. And I hate to harp on it, and I sound like beating a dead horse, but I think that set the Devils franchise back at least 3 years, and now they have Sonny Maeda as their GM, and I mean, what's done is done, but that just tells you, I mean, when Jack Hughes got hurt, you could have had a second-year, third-year center in Logan Cooley filling in. You don't have any lapse of, not having two superstar centers or at least top 3 picks. And why they picked Nemec, again, it's nothing against him, but
it's a little against him.
Well,
I'm really Kel McCarr, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah, but Kel McCarr is like a unicorn. So
if
it's the exception to the rule.
I'm trying to think of like another guy.
Well, I mean, look at the 2017 draft. If the Devils did not win that lottery, and they were, would Colorado have picked Kel McCarr if they had the first overall pick? Colorado was the worst team in that season.
Right. I don't think they would have. I think they would have taken the center, and whether it was Patrick or Hischier.
And the story goes, it was Bobby Clark that wanted Kel McCarr, but Ron Hextall picked Nolan Patrick, second overall, Philadelphia Flyers, and that cost him his job. That was a big thing.
I will tell you, there was at least 2 people in the Devils front office, scouting staff, whatever, who were banging the table for Kel McCarr. I know that for a fact. There's just a lot of people there, right? There's a lot of people who are talking. There's a lot of conversations going on. And if you remember, Sam, defense was devastatingly bad in that era, right? The defense was dreadful for the Devils. What was it? Was Severson your number 1?
Probably.
I think at the time?
Probably.
I think Severson was your number 1. They kept trying to trade for it, right? That year they traded for Vatanen, who was like the number 3 in Anaheim, and then immediately became the number 1 in New Jersey. And I will fight to the death to anybody who talks bad about Vatanen, because he was really good here. Really good. Playing above his weight class, he was really good. Sami Vatanen was a very good player, and then I think it was Nikita Kucherov took his head off. And he was never the same. And he kept getting injured after that, and that kind of, stuck it. But the Devils were in that series of the Lightning every game until Vatanen got his head taken off. And then it just kind of, the wheels kind of came off because they had nobody, really behind him on the right side. Was he right side or left side? I can't remember now. But then after that, they tried to get Subban, and Subban's back went out. I still advocate that Subban could have played another 2 or 3 seasons in a third-line role, and he would have been really good in that role. But, he didn't want to take that big of a pay cut, and he retired and went to ESPN. There's a couple other guys that I can't think of off the top of my head, but, until they signed Hamilton, they've been looking for that superstar defenseman. They got it in Hamilton. And then then they were like, let me draft Hughes. Let me draft Nemitz. So when Hamilton becomes a second or third line guy like Subban became, I got guys ready to take up those spots. Unfortunately, the development of Hughes and Hamilton has taken longer than expected. Or Hughes and Nemitz has taken longer than expected.
It does. To be fair, it does take time. Metalander.
There's new research out that says it should be done by now.
Well,
That goes
Metalander.
for Casey too.
Metalander saying, because they were desperate for defense at the time, revisionist history, Sam. No, I've always been on the record saying, if you've got a top five pick, you pick the best available, regardless of position.
You should always pick the best available.
Yeah, best available.
Always take the best available. No, Nemitz was not a need at the time at all. That's incorrect. Like I'm because if you remember at the time they had, so it was 2022. That was going to the 2022.
Mohamedulin was in the system somehow.
Well, it was in the system, but Sam, in the NHL they had Hamilton, Severson, and they had another really good guy on the right side because Severson was moved to the third line.
Well, they had Ryan Graves. Well, eventually they had Ryan Graves.
Ryan Graves was he was a left-handed though.
They had Ryan Graves. I'm trying to go back in time with these D guys, But the thing is, I mean, it's been well documented by me at that time period. Now,
Marino.
Yeah, well, Marino came afterwards, but at the time of the draft,
no, he was at 22, 23. They had Marino.
But Marino was not a Devil when Shimon Nemitz was drafted. It was after.
It was. Well, they signed him afterwards, or they traded for him afterwards, I guess.
Yeah, afterwards.
But again, that was on the table. They have Kevin Ball. I think he was right-handed, or was he left-handed?
He's left-handed.
He is left-handed. You're right.
But
they had Nikita Hoytuk. He was. I'm sorry. I'm getting these handed.
No. But who are the? I mean, then they had Seamus Casey. We knew when
he was drafted the same year as Nemitz, I think.
Yeah, and Ethan Edwards, he was somewhere in the mix.
Yeah, I think he was 23.
But
again, Tom Fitzgerald had prioritized defense for a while, and So in 2020 they drafted Mukmandulin, Ethan Edwards. So you were right, that was 2020, and then in 19 they drafted Daniil Misul, Nikita Hoytuk, Michael Vukovic,
which we had on the podcast, if you remember.
Oh yeah, I do remember that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's who they had, Sam. Ty Smith was on the team.
That's right.
When they drafted Nemitz. And then they traded Smith for Marino.
Which is that jersey behind
So again,
me.
they had the right-handed defenseman. They traded him for another right-handed defenseman. So, Nemitz wasn't a need. He was a want. They thought he was the best guy in the draft, and they were incorrect. Cooley was the much better pick. Wright was a better pick than Nemitz, in my opinion. I still think that. He has his own issues in Seattle, and his development has been weird. And maybe the Devils, who have not had a good development system, and we could talk about Megan Dugan leaving if you want, but I think it was a mistake. If you're looking at the Devils with, because I don't think Logan Cooley would have stopped them from making the Cody Glass trade. So let's pretend it doesn't. Let's pretend you have Cooley, Hughes, Hischier, Glass. And Tom Fitzgerald still has a job. Unless I think there's a chance, Sam, that Tom Fitzgerald kind of put his guts on the table and wants this Nashville job, and mutually parted ways with the Devils to go after it. And I think it's going to fly back in his face. I think we're going to find out in the next couple of days. But,
well, that's the other thing too. I mean, there were the other two centermen that, in to his credit, they did draft Pavel Zacha and obviously Michael McLeod. That both didn't work out.
Right.
That was supposed to be the future for down the middle. I mean, down the middle, that would have been pretty awesome. But it didn't work out. And, and just the way they valued right-handed mobile D guys, again, with Shimon Nemitz, again, we there's a salary cap, but I don't believe at all that Shimon Nemitz wants to leave. I don't believe it at all. I think it may happen, but at this moment, I don't believe he requested a trade. I don't believe any of that.
What do you mean want? I don't think he requested a trade, no. I think he'd be fine with it.
Yeah, I think so too. Like, who is he to just demand? He has no power right now.
And I think we talked about this when that first report from Nemitz came out about the AHL. What was it, 2 years ago? I think he's getting a little lost in translation.
Yeah.
I've spoken to Nemitz. And dude is dry. Dry as a bone. He's just kind of like, meh. He's not a guy who's just looking to have a conversation like that. And I don't see him as a guy who would be that forward. He shows a lot of emotion on the ice, but I just don't see a guy who... I feel like he thought he made a mistake when that report came out because he's an AHL guy who's making noise on the AHL level for all the wrong reasons.
Yep.
So I don't think he'd make that mistake again. And there's certain things in that report that just were incorrect, including that he hadn't talked to Maeda. Maeda talked to his agent. So, did Maeda call him directly? I don't know, but he's talking to his agent. There's a little bit of line of demarcation there because it's a contract. But Maeda should call him, I guess. But if he might get traded, there's also kind of that conversation that he has to have. So I could see why he would wait. But if he didn't, which I think is the most likely option, these reports, and the guy doubling down on the report in Slovakia saying, we stand by our record or whatever they said. It was weird and it was gross, but
yeah, but they're in Slovakia.
What do they care?
Yeah.
Well, Sam, there's a lot more we could talk about, but I think we should put a pin in it because I don't want to go down too many rabbit holes. I want some things to develop in the next week, and then let's talk to the people again next week.
Yeah. Yeah.
Ready for plugs?
Yeah. Let's go with the plugs.
Yeah, pucks at pitchworks.com. We have a ton of articles on Nico Hischier and Shimon Nemitz, so if that's up your alley, go for it. Vinny Parisi's writing an article right now about how the Devils had more wins than the Golden Knights and kind of the precedence for that. Sam, did you see our new writer who we announced?
Yes. Why don't you announce?
Friend of the podcast, JP Gambatis, is now an official writer for Pucks and Pitchforks.com. Sam, we got the best of the best at pucksandpitchforks.com. Interesting week for Devils coverage. We got JP Gambatis. Daniel Moya goes to partner with James Nichols, both friends of the podcast at NJ Hockey Now. I'm not sure what's going to go on with the hockey writers, if they're going to keep the beat, but there's a lot going on. But But yeah, I think it's an exciting time to come to Pucks and Pitchforks and come write for us. If you ever want to write, if you ever want to get your feet wet, I'm always looking for new writers. I'm always giving people a shot. There's a new process. It's a little bit more diligent, I think, with Fansided to apply. But if you put my name in the referral, talk to me first, please. But if you want to come write, you want to make a couple bucks writing a couple articles a month, come catch me. But yeah, I'll also have a story on Timo Meier and whether I care about how much he's done at the World Championships. We didn't even mention it, so we obviously don't care that much. But he's doing well at the World Championships, so we'll write about that. That story in Dawson Mercer's up right now. But JP's been writing about Connor Vonderk, who's has an interesting situation at Boston University this year. He wrote about he's written like 4 or 5 articles already. So go to pucksandpitchforks.com. We have so much to read about, so much to get your wheels turning, your ears burning, and the rumor mill flowing.
Yeah, it's starting to get hot this time of year. The only thing I'll plug, number one, I did some writing on pucksandpitchforks.com, and I could tell you it was Nick makes my writing look so good. Sometimes I reread my old articles, going defending Lindy Ruff in the middle of the trenches years ago.
Hey, come reapply and defend Lindy Ruff again. It's relevant again.
Yeah. But follow me on X at Primetime Sam Wu, stirring up the conversation about Minnesota and New Jersey and all that. And obviously, it's become a gossip column with Tate McRae and Jack and Quinn and Luke out Seagard and all that kind of stuff. It's all the rage.
And Brady.
Yeah.
That's not all. It's not just Quinn. It's Brady.
Yeah.
Brady Kachuk is there too.
Yeah. So
let's get them both.
Yeah. But go to pucksandpitchforks.com. It's a great website. So I'm going to hit the music right now. But, Nick, there's a problem. Lost control of the board. Here we go. There we go. All right. pucksandpitchforks.com. Good to see everybody. I took a little bit of a break, a pause, but plan to ramp it back up because we got the draft, you got free agency. We've got a lot of things to be talking about. Sonny Maeda, so far, in my opinion, made some smart decisions so far. Nothing controversial. Obvious decisions. But we shall see what he's going to do. Dropping the podcast in about 20 minutes. Till next time, let's go Devils.